Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the dramatic boom, bust, and absolute rebirth of a corporate titan. If you pay any attention to global healthcare, you definitely know the name AstraZeneca. They are a massive force in modern medicine. But, their journey to the top wasn't exactly a straight line. Actually, it's a wild ride filled with near bankruptcies, brilliant academic partnerships, devastating tragedies, and some massive cultural revolutions. So you really have to ask yourself, how does a company that was quite literally bought for a single symbolic coin transform into a multi-billion-dollar pharma giant? It's an incredible story of resilience. And to understand the sheer scale of this company today, we've got to travel way back, over a century, to its rather humble but super ambitious origins in 1913. Section 1. The 1 krona lifeline. Picture this. It's the early 1900s, and the Swedish market is completely dominated by foreign pharmaceutical companies. So a group of local doctors and apothecaries decide to found Astra in 1913 to jumpstart domestic production. And they started strong. During World War I, restrictions on imports actually created this huge demand for Astra's products, and they were making handsome profits. Because of that early success, in 1918, a dye producer called ASF bought Astra, hoping to build this massive Swedish chemical group. But, well, they grossly miscalculated. They figured wartime shortages would just keep going. When post-WWI raw material prices absolutely crashed, ASF faced imminent bankruptcy and was liquidated by 1920, nearly wiping Astra off the map entirely. But then, Astra was thrown a highly symbolic lifeline. After a government bailout fell through, a private consortium led by a merchant named Eric Kistner and a prominent banker named Jacob Wallenberg swooped in. They bought the entire debt-ridden company for exactly 1 single krona. Section 2. Xylocaine and global growth. With a new lease on life and the very powerful Wallenberg family now backing them, Astra was totally reorganized. As we move into the 1930s and 40s, they shifted heavily into serious, independent research. Then, in 1943, 2 chemists from the University of Stockholm approached them with a brand new compound. Now, they had shopped this around, but only Astra actually gave them the financial backing to test it. After 5 years of clinical trials, this discovery hit the market in 1948 as Xylocaine. It's a local anesthetic that was so unbelievably effective, you very likely experienced a derivative of it yourself at the dentist. Xylocaine was an absolute blockbuster. To put its success into perspective, by 1984, local anesthetics made up a whopping 24% of Astra's total sales. The massive profits from this single brilliant breakthrough completely funded their international expansion throughout the 1950s and beyond. It allowed them to build this massive international network of subsidiaries and really modernize their central labs. Basically, this one drug was the financial engine that propelled them onto the global stage. Section 3. Tragedy and missed opportunities. Now, we have to talk about a really dark chapter. Astra had been distributing a prescription-free sedative in Sweden called Neurocidin. They didn't actually develop it themselves. It came out of Germany and was sold elsewhere under the name thalidomide. It was marketed as totally safe, often taken by pregnant women for morning sickness. But in late 1961, a tragic connection was discovered between the drug and severe birth defects. Astra withdrew the drug in Sweden just 3 weeks after it was pulled in Germany. It had only been on the market for less than 3 years, but the impact was just devastating. Around 100 Swedish children suffered deformations. Globally, the thalidomide scandal affected around 10,000 people. By 1969, Astra reached a settlement and set aside compensation funds for the victims. This stark reality forced a complete worldwide revision of safety thinking in drug development. To this day, it remains the worst tragedy in Swedish pharmaceutical history. Adding to their struggles, Astra completely fumbled a massive commercial opportunity just a bit later. In 1982, they actually pioneered a brand new class of neuropharmacological drugs called SSRIs, launching a drug called Zelmed. But just a year later, getting spooked over side effect concerns, they withdrew it and, crucially, they abandoned the SSRI field entirely. By leaving that door wide open, their U.S. competitor Eli Lilly swooped right in with Prozac, totally dominating a massively lucrative market that Astra had originally pioneered. Section 4. Losec and a cultural shift. So, the company was profitable, sure, but investors felt it just wasn't reaching its potential. To shake things up, the Wallenberg family decided it was time for some drastic leadership changes. In 1988, they brought in an unlikely savior, a 44-year-old former chocolatier named Hakan Mogren. Now, Mogren inherited an old Astra that was super cautious, suffered from a bit of an inferiority complex, and kept licensing out its best drug inventions to other companies. He completely flipped the script. The new Astra rescinded those outside licenses. He doubled the size of their internal sales force and aggressively established subsidiaries worldwide to take on the global market directly. Mogren realized that Astra science was already world-class. It was their corporate mindset that needed a serious fix. He famously noted that they had to turn from an inferiority complex to self-confidence and the ambition to be a true global player. He called it an emotional change. And that newfound swagger prepared Astra for their biggest battle yet, launching their new peptic ulcer drug, Losec, into a totally fierce global competition against massive rivals like Glaxo. And wow, did that cultural shift pay off? By 1996, their new drug, Losec, which you might actually know as Prilosec here in the US, was raking in a staggering $3.5 billion annually. It wasn't just a win. It became the world's best-selling drug, and Astra became one of the heaviest hitters on the Stockholm Stock Exchange. Section 5. Merging to form AstraZeneca. Despite this absolute goldmine of success, the looming expiration of Losec's patents meant Astra needed a partner to survive the coming storm of generic competition. Plus, R&D costs for new drugs were just skyrocketing across the whole industry. So in 1999, Astra merged with a British company, Zeneca, which had spun out of Imperial Chemical Industries. Zeneca shareholders took 53.5% ownership, and Astra took 46.5%. Together, they formed AstraZeneca, instantly creating the world's third-largest pharmaceutical company. This merger kicked off a massive era of aggressive restructuring and expansion. They moved the corporate headquarters to the UK and eventually concentrated their global R&D into 3 major hubs: Cambridge in the UK, Gothenburg in Sweden, and Gaithersburg, Maryland. And they didn't just sit back and rely on their internal science either. They went on a huge buying spree, acquiring massive biotech firms like Cambridge Antibody Technology and dropping $15 billion to acquire MedImmune. This shifted their focus heavily into specialized, high-impact areas like oncology, cardiovascular, and respiratory therapies. To really grasp the sheer scale of the company today, you have to contrast their humble beginnings. Remember that rescue for a single 1 krona coin? With this staggering number. In 2025, AstraZeneca pledged $50 billion to invest in the United States alone by the year 2030. They have literally transformed from a regional Swedish manufacturer into an absolute titan of global capital and cutting-edge scientific research. And they are actively pushing right into the bleeding edge of the future. Just look at this move. In January 2026, they scooped up Modella AI, a Boston-based artificial intelligence company. They're supercharging their oncology research by integrating these advanced AI data models directly into their clinical development and biomarker discovery. Basically, they're betting that the next big blockbuster drug won't just be found in a test tube, but inside a neural network. Which leaves us with this final thought. From nearly disappearing in a post-World War I crash, to reshaping global drug safety, to fielding the absolute best-selling drug on Earth, AstraZeneca has constantly reinvented itself. With billions upon billions now flowing into AI and cutting-edge cell therapies, what boundaries of modern medicine will they push next? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I hope this deep dive gave you a really clear view of exactly how this fascinating company was built.